Welcome to Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Of course, my name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. And you can catch me on your home of the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers, 105.3 The Fan. It is Game 1 preview time. Your Dallas Mavericks taking on the Phoenix Suns in Game 1 of the Western Conference semifinals. The first time the Dallas Mavericks have advanced in the playoffs since, of course, winning the championship back in 2011. Meanwhile, the Phoenix Suns looking to get back to the NBA Finals for a second consecutive year. Dispatch of the New Orleans Pelicans in 6 games. Chris Paul with a record performance in the clinching game, going 14 of 14 from the field, the most field goals made without a miss. And Chris Paul played an extremely fantastic basketball game in Game 6 against the New Orleans Pelicans. Meanwhile, your Dallas Mavericks clinched their series in 6 games. They do so on the road as well when they defeated the Utah Jazz. A Bogdanovich 3 went by the wayside, and your Dallas Mavericks were able to win their first playoff series since 2011. Make sure while you're here, you hit that like button right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Inside the Mavs Live, our Game 1 preview, our series preview as your Dallas Mavericks take on the Phoenix Suns in Game 1. Game 1 tips off at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. I know that's different for everybody, but that's what the time it is for us here in Texas, is at 9 p.m. It's going to be a late night, obviously, when it comes to this game. And the Mavericks and the Suns, they're in the Valley of the Sun. Can the Mavericks find a way to steal home court advantage in this series in Game 1 and be able to earn the split that they need? So we're going to be going through a lot here as we get you ready for this game tonight. Obviously, the Mavericks looking to continue to play the good basketball that they started to play, obviously, in the series against the Utah Jazz. Meanwhile, the Phoenix Suns looking to continue to build on what was a difficult series. Although the Pelicans were able to push them to 6 games in a very tough, very competitive series, the Phoenix Suns were able to prevail. They missed Devin Booker for a few games in that series, but he was able to come back in that series as well. He's looking to be ready to go when the Dallas Mavericks take on the Phoenix Suns tonight. Obviously, in the course of the regular season, these two teams met 3 times. Phoenix won all 3 of them. They've actually won 9 straight overall in this series against the Dallas Mavericks. 9 straight games they've won when it comes to them getting together with the Dallas Mavericks. Appreciate you hitting that like button here on Inside the Mavs right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Inside the Mavs Live, our Mavericks Suns Game 1 preview. Can Luka Doncic and company get it done once again? The Mavericks have lost 9 straight games to the Phoenix Suns. They won the 3 games that they played this year. The common thread in each of those 3 games, the Dallas Mavericks actually had a lead going into the fourth quarter in each of those 3 games. Now, when you look back on it as well, this is a different Mavericks team than what the Suns saw last back on January the 20th and even prior to that. Luka Doncic did not play in 2 of the first 3 games. Kristaps Porzingis was still on this roster back when they played in January. This is a different looking team than what we've seen in the past several months, and the Phoenix Suns know that coming into this game. From RIEQ, Savage, appreciate vocal dinosaur, appreciate you. Another live, yep. Victor Miranda expecting Spencer to have a better series. I think that's a lot of the conversation going into this series. That Spencer Dinwiddie, who got back on track in Game 6 against the Utah Jazz, looking to carry that over going against the Phoenix Suns in this series. Appreciate you hitting that like button right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Inside the Mavs Live as we get you ready for game number 1 between the Mavericks and the Suns tonight. From Desert Dog 1991, pray for Spence. Yeah, I feel you on that. Can Spencer Dinwiddie find himself playing in a much better fashion, more consistently throughout this series? Obviously, these 2 teams are extremely good in the clutch when you look at their numbers and you look at what they've done so far this year. Can they find themselves? Who can win the game the most when it comes to clutch time? Obviously, these 2 teams have been the best in clutch time, 2 of the best teams in clutch time this season. The Phoenix Suns 33-9 during the regular season, now 35-10 overall. When you look at their overall clutch record, remember clutch time meaning in the fourth quarter in the last 5 minutes of a ball game. Within 5 points is the score when we're talking about clutch time games. The Dallas Mavericks 25-18 during clutch time this year. Can they continue to do what they did in clutch time in the series that they did against the Jazz, where they went 3-2 in such clutch games against the Utah Jazz? Whomever is able to execute better down the stretch in this series, I think will win this series. As we mentioned, a different team are the Dallas Mavericks. No Spencer Dinwiddie at the time, no Davis Bertans. This team defensively is that much better. How this team performs against Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges averaging 17 points. These are guys that you're going to obviously have to focus on, especially when it comes to Chris Paul and Devin Booker. From Bryback, MNL, Maxey 8 from 10 from 3 today. So predicted a big game for Maxey Cleveland. I'm glad that you brought up Maxey, because Maxey Cleveland, we saw in the Utah Jazz series, we saw what he did in game 2. Was absolutely spectacular from 3, hit 8 threes in that game. 7 of those threes were uncontested. You saw what he did in game 3 in a combination with Josh Green and Davis Bertans. They went 14 of 20 from the field, 11 of 17 from the three-point line. That's what they're going to have to do. You're going to have to find Davis Bertans, Maxey Cleveland being able to knock down open three-pointers. Josh Green is going to get plenty of opportunities to have wide open three-pointers. Can he knock down shots in this series as well? Because he'll have plenty of opportunities to do so. Appreciate you hitting that like button right here on Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports, TJK TV. Let's go. Look, I know Mavs fans are excited. Obviously, this is an anticipated series, one of the most anticipated series. And when you look at the NBA playoffs themselves, very interesting. All chalk in both the East and the Western Conference. The 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds in the East, the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds in the West, all advanced to the Western Conference and Eastern Conference semifinals. From I would say Swish Your Sweet, because it looks like a 5, but we'll do that there. I smell a big game from someone from the bench. I like that thought. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Spencer Dinwiddie? Is it going to be Josh Green? Is it going to be Davis Bertans? Is it going to be Maxey Cleveland? Someone is going to have to step up and come with Jalen Brunson. Someone's going to have to come and step up and go with Luka Doncic as well. You saw how good Jalen Brunson was in the last series, averaging over 25, 26 points per game in that series. Only 4 total turnovers in that series. Him protecting the basketball. When I talked to him over the weekend in an interview that I did with him after practice, the one common thread from his comments was that this team is still hungry. They are not satisfied with what they did in the first round. They want to continue to build on what they did and find a way to get an upset over the Phoenix Suns. Oh, I did say it correct. Great. Swish Your Sweet. Appreciate that right here in the chat room. If you want to throw in a super chat, you got a question, throw in a super chat in there, super sticker in there. Make sure you throw one in there. We'll get your question answered. If you want to become a member, you could do that for just a couple bucks a month by doing that right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Greetings from Costa Rica. We will win tonight. MFFL. Appreciate that. Piche LeBlue. Appreciate you joining me right here on Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Hit that like button while you're there. Like I said, if you want to throw in a super chat, definitely get your question up there. We'll get that answered real quick. Super sticker. And also you can become a member for just a couple bucks a month if you want to. Tell your friends and your family to jump right in Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. So again, who executes in clutch time? Who's going to come with Luka Doncic? Who's going to come with Jalen Brunson? Those are going to be the keys in this series. When you look at the other side and what Phoenix presents, the best team in the NBA all season long, a team with Chris Paul, the best point guard of his generation, Devin Booker, obviously how his health will look in this series with the hamstring and how he will continue to progress is something we're going to be watching throughout the entirety of this series. They have a Defensive Player of the Year finalist in Mikal Bridges. They've got a talented center and big man in DeAndre Ayton. Jay Crowder, a veteran in the game for a long time, a savvy veteran who can shoot the three, can defend, and can do all the little things for your team, and a guy that you want as kind of that glue guy for your roster if you have him on your team. This is a very balanced, very deep Suns team, a well-coached basketball team by Monty Williams, who I do believe will win NBA Coach of the Year. I thought he should have won it last year for the way that his Suns performed. I think he will win it this year. I told people in the past, they have the perfect modern basketball team when you look at how their roster is built. You've got the professional floor general in Chris Paul. You've got a devastating scorer in Devin Booker. You've got terrific wing play from Jay Crowder, from Mikal Bridges, who can guard positions 1 through 4 and is going to guard your team's best player every single night. And then you have DeAndre Ayton in the middle, who averaged 15 rebounds a game against the Dallas Mavericks in the 3 games they played this season. A much better offensive center than Rudy Gobert, not nearly as good defensively, but can block shots. But at the same time, the Dallas Mavericks have an opportunity to exploit him on the defensive end with the attacking nature of Jalen Brunson, Luka Doncic, and obviously with a guy in Spencer Dinwiddie. From Jay Jimenez, let's hope spacing, ball handling, and superstar skill sets win the game. Here's the thing that you can appreciate about this series if you're a Mavericks fan. You do have the best player on the floor in this series in Luka Doncic. Appreciate you hitting that like button right there here on Kevin Gray Sports Inside the Mavs Live, our Mavericks Suns Game 1 preview as we get you ready for Game 1 tonight and get you ready for the entire series between the Mavericks and the Suns in the Western Conference semifinals. You have the best player on the floor if you're the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic is going to be a 3-time All-NBA first-team performer when everything is said and done at the end of this season. And you can tell that he is getting his legs back. You saw it in game number 6 and throughout the entirety of the series once he came back in game 4, that he is a player that feels good about his health. We talked to him over the weekend. He feels good. There's no lingering concerns about the calf injury going forward any longer. He is back to his 100% full Luka Doncic self, and hopefully some Luka magic will be able to appear throughout this series. I will say it may take a Herculean effort from Luka Doncic in this series to be able to put himself in position, to put his team in position to be able to win this series. I feel like this series is going to go 6 or 7 games, and I think it should go at least 6 games. I would be very disappointed if this series ended in fewer than 5 games, unless, of course, the Mavericks were on the end of winning that series in 5 games or less. From Harold Rodriguez here in our chat room, Luka will have to be playoff Luka for us to win. I do think we can steal tonight's game in game 1. That's the goal, obviously, when you get these deep into the playoffs. Split in the first 2 games. If you're the road team, find a way to get it back to your building at least 1-1, and then take your chances as the series goes on. From BU, let's effing go Mavs. I feel that energy coming from the chat room right here on Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Hit that like button while you're there. You can become a member for a couple bucks a month, and also hit that super chat if you want to. If you got a question that you want to get up to the top there that we can answer, taking your questions and obviously getting you ready for game 1 tonight and for this series between the Mavericks and the Suns. When you look at the pace of play for this team, we know that the Mavericks were the slowest paced team in all of the NBA, and they got even slower when they took on the Utah Jazz, averaging only 18 seconds per possession. How they control the pace of the game with Luka Doncic running things at the point and obviously trying to slow down a Phoenix team that can get out in transition, can find themselves getting some transition buckets. Can they put themselves in a position where they're slowing things down, dictating the tempo and the pace of the game and then the series? Luka Doncic can do that when it comes to his play and what he does offensively for this team. From TGKTV, excuse me. The key to these games, whoever executes best in the final 5 minutes between CP3 and Luka wins the games. Sounds simple, but it's so massive with these games. You're exactly right. That's what we were talking about a little bit earlier. These 2 teams are 2 of the best teams in the clutch in the NBA. In the 3 games that the Mavericks played against the Phoenix Suns during the regular season, had a lead after the first 3 quarters of each of those 3 games, but weren't able to execute down the stretch. That has to change, obviously, in this series against the Phoenix Suns. They've lost 9 straight to this team overall. But we've seen throughout the course of this season for the Mavericks, they are not afraid of breaking long winning streaks. Ask the Chicago Bulls, ask the Memphis Grizzlies, ask the Utah Jazz, a place where they hadn't won in several years. They were able to do that in their last series. This is a group that's not afraid to play anyone at any time in any place, and that should give you a lot of confidence if you're a Mavericks fan, knowing what is capable of this team and what we've seen throughout the course of the regular season for them. Make sure you hit that like button right here on Kevin Gray Sports Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports, getting you ready for game number 1 in this series and the overall series when it comes to the Mavericks and the Suns. From Swisher Sweet here in our chat room, I wonder if Luka will kick out less as Ayton can cover the corner better than Gobert. Here's the thing about that. When Luca decides to drive the paint and to get inside, these defenses are going to have to make decisions. And I feel like in this series, Dwight Powell will be much more involved in this series because Ayton isn't nearly as athletic of a defender, I believe, as Rudy Gobert. Obviously, Rudy Gobert can guard the perimeter a little bit better, can make better decisions playing that drop coverage the way that he's capable of playing. I think that Dwight Powell will be able to have a big series in this series against the Suns because of the pick and roll that Luka Doncic and Powell will be able to play. You could possibly pick and roll in death this Phoenix Suns team and see how they adjust. If that begins to happen, now Luka Doncic will be able to survey an open floor space for shooters in the corners like Reggie Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith for them to knock down open three-pointers. Luka Doncic, here's the beautiful part about Doncic in his game, right? When Luka Doncic decides to go inside, he has to have decisions be made on him defensively on what he wants to do. He can be a guy that can obviously finish at the rim. He can finish in the mid-range. He can hit the mid-range jumper. He can make decisions and get lob passes to Dwight Powell. If you're able to be connected with Luka in that pick and roll situation, the way that Dwight Powell is, you can find yourself getting a lot of easy buckets. And then if you're going to continue to roll with Powell, now Luka Doncic can finish with the floater in the mid-range, find shooters, and now space is wide open for him to do what he does. From Terrell Pierce here, what's good, Kevin? Don't put nothing past these Mavs. Hey, look, I agree with you. From SSKR11, hopefully Dwight and Maxey step up. We need them for sure. As we were mentioning, I think this is a series that Dwight Powell can have a big series, knowing that Rudy Gobert is not going to be patrolling the middle as nearly as well. And DeAndre Ayton won't be able to patrol the middle as nearly as well as Rudy Gobert, I should say. For Switcher Suite, yes, I really hope we go back to Powell in the pick and roll. Also, hopefully Spencer will be less intimidated when entering in the paint. That's the thing about Gobert, and you saw it at times during that last series. Even though Gobert may not necessarily block your shots, he makes you make different decisions based on his ability to alter shots at the rim, make you make different decisions on what you and how you want to attack the rim. That's a beauty of a Rudy Gobert. DeAndre Ayton, not nearly as good defensively as Gobert. I think that Spencer Dinwiddie, and look, Spencer Dinwiddie put Rudy Gobert on a poster, so it wasn't like he was completely afraid to attack him in that series. He has to choose his spots better, and more importantly, he has to be much more consistent throughout the course of this series. Make sure you're hitting that like button right here. Inside the Mavs live right here on Kevin Gray Sports, our Mavericks Suns Game 1 preview as we get you ready for the Mavericks taking on the Suns at 9 p.m. Central Time in Game 1 of this series out in Phoenix, Arizona. So that will be, to me, a key in this series. The pick and roll game between Luka Doncic and Dwight Powell should be much more effective in this series than it was against the Utah Jazz. Gobert not patrolling the middle. DeAndre Ayton can be had in pick and roll situations. And then if that has to happen, you might see some switching when it comes to what the Phoenix Suns try to do. Speaking of that, they're going to be going up against one of the best defenders, one of the best individual perimeter defenders in all of the NBA, in Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges is a guy that can defend positions 1 through 4. He can guard your best point guard. He can guard your best shooting guard. He can guard anyone on the floor 1 through 4. He will take his turns on Luka Doncic, Jalen Brunson, Spencer Dinwiddie. Expect Mikal Bridges to be all over the place on the perimeter. The thing when you look at each of those individual matchups, we'll start with Luka Doncic, obviously. The strength factor of Luka should be able to win the day against a Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges, quick, got a lot of length, can bother you in terms of his length. But if you see Luka Doncic at times, which I kind of want to see a little bit, put Luka Doncic in the post a little bit. Let him work on Mikal Bridges a little bit. Let him wear him down with the strength and the girth that he has to try and wear down Mikal Bridges a little bit. I would like to see some of that in this series with Luka Doncic's ability to use that strength on the inside to bother Mikal Bridges and try to wear him down just a little bit. From SSKR11, is this game nationally televised? Yes, the game is going to be on TNT, so you'll be able to watch the game live on TNT tonight when the game starts at 9 o'clock. From Victor Miranda, shout out to Reggie and Dodo. They will have a big assignment on the defensive end. Yeah, we were talking about that with Mikal Bridges. We'll get to Reggie Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith in the defensive assignments that they have and what they'll be able to do. They were terrific against Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley. They'll have to do more of the same in this series against Chris Paul. When you look at Mikal Bridges versus his former Villanova teammate and Jalen Brunson, again, the length, the quickness, How will he be able to handle that when it comes to that in this series? Appreciate that, Swisher Sweet in there. The vibes, the immaculate vibes. Appreciate you dropping that in here when it comes to the super chat and the super sticker right here. Appreciate you dropping that in there. Yeah, immaculate vibes. We're hoping when it comes to Jalen Brunson. But that's what we're talking about. Jalen Brunson, the length of Mikal Bridges, the quickness, how he'll be able to bother Jalen Brunson potentially with that. You saw a little bit in the Utah series. Utah made a slight adjustment in starting Bogdanovic and guarding Jalen Brunson, picking him up full court. Mikal Bridges is not accustomed. He is not bothered by the idea of picking up guys full court, defending them for 94 feet, and trying to bother when it comes to Jalen Brunson and these guards here. So that'll be fun to watch. And then obviously with Spencer Dinwiddie, a lot of the same. The length, the quickness, the ability to reach, how he stays in front of Spencer Dinwiddie. Just as I said, Mikal Bridges will be all over the floor for the Phoenix Suns and will guard multiple positions in this game and in this series and try to create havoc when it comes to the ball handling of Doncic with Brunson and with Dinwiddie. Conversely, on the other side, appreciate you hitting that like button right here inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch these two get after Devin Booker and Chris Paul. One of the most underrated parts about the series against the Utah Jazz for the Dallas Mavericks, Reggie Bullock defensively virtually played Mike Conley off the floor at times in the Jazz and Mavericks series. His length, his quickness, his ability to get after Mike Conley virtually made him unplayable at times in this series. Obviously, that's not going to be the same case when it comes to Chris Paul. Chris Paul, one of the best point guards of his generation, a savvy point guard, has seen everything that this league has to offer. But if you're Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie to a degree, Jalen Brunson to a degree also in this series, you've got to make things tough on Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Each of them are going to make their fair share of tough shots in this series. So don't get discouraged when you see Chris Paul or Devin Booker making tough shots. Sometimes really good offense is going to be really good defense. Those two are extremely good at doing that when it comes to playing against their opponent. They will make tough shots in this series, so don't get discouraged by that. From SSKR 11, do you think Dodo will be on Booker most of the series? He did such a great job on Mitchell last year. I think both of them will take turns on Devin Booker. I think you'll see Dorian Finney-Smith on Devin Booker at times. You'll see Reggie Bullock on Devin Booker at times in this series. Dorian Finney-Smith is this team's best individual defender. He takes the assignment on guarding the team's best offensive player every single night. But in this series, you have to throw multiple bodies at Devin Booker, at Chris Paul, give them different looks, different lengths, being able to try and figure out different ways to bother them when it comes to their offense, whether it be distributing the ball in Chris Paul's case or in Devin Booker's case. His ability to hit shots from anywhere on the floor. He's got really good mid-range, can obviously step back and shoot the three-pointer with great regularity and consistency. His variety of offensive game is vast, so you've got to make things tough on him to be able to have him try to knock down tough shots in this series. Again, he's going to make his fair share of tough shots, so don't be discouraged when you see him do so. He's that talented of an offensive player and will look to put himself in position to do so. My man Walt jumping in here on the chat. BFB best for business DFW. We call him Finney Swish, KG. Yeah, I know you call him Finney Swish, Walt. I know you do. Dorian Finney-Smith. And look, ever since getting the contract, the 4-year, $55+ million deal, he's looked like a different player. The weight has come off of him in terms of the expectations, all the things that come with trying to earn a long-term deal. He's looked like a different player since earning that contract. And you saw that during the course of the Utah Jazz series, hitting big shot after big shot after big shot, especially in game number 6 and throughout the course of that series. All of those things you will need and more in this series against the Phoenix Suns, and what he has to do. Dorian Finney-Smith, Reggie Bullock on the defensive end. Make sure you're hitting that like button right here. It is Inside the Mavs Live, our Mavericks Suns game 1 preview. Can Luka Doncic and company win again? And obviously, the defenses for both of these teams will be under the microscope. Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, prolific scorers. How each of these teams will handle each of their team's superstars is going to be huge in this series. We were mentioning earlier, Monty Williams, terrific coach. I think will be the NBA's coach of the year. But you give a lot of credit to Jason Kidd and what he's done throughout the course of the season, winning a career high 52 games as a head coach this year, getting the Mavericks out of the first round of the playoffs for the first time since he was a part of the championship team back in 2011. Jason Kidd has done a phenomenal job. I thought he outcoached Quinn Snyder in the previous series against the Utah Jazz. He will have a tough coaching assignment in this series against Monty Williams, one of the best in the NBA, Sean Sweeney, defensive coordinator for this team, one of the assistants of the year in my mind with the defensive turnaround that this team has experienced this year. Sean Sweeney has been phenomenal for this team defensively. Appreciate you joining me here right here on Inside the Mavs. Make sure you hit that like button right there for Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube, getting you ready for Mavericks Suns game 1 of the Western Conference semifinals. From Jay Jimenez, Dodo is in the top 3 and the most valuable players for the Mavs. I think I would agree with you. And a lot of that comes from his value and what he does on the defensive end. Obviously, we know how well of a shooter he is in the corners when it comes to his three-point shooting. Defensively, it's his calling card and what he has to do for this team, and he will have a tough assignment going up against Devin Booker. Again, other numbers when you start looking at this series, DeAndre Ayton, as we mentioned earlier, averaged 15 rebounds per game against the Dallas Mavericks this season. We knew that was going to be trouble for them in the series against the Utah Jazz. That should be a little bit better, especially once you introduced Luka Doncic into that series. You saw how the rebounding changed, especially on the defensive end. At one point in a game, the last series for Luka Doncic, he had 13 rebounds, all of them on the defensive glass in one game. He is the one as the best rebounder on this team, and his ability to not only rebound the basketball on the defensive end, to get things pushed out in transition where they'll need to take their opportunities and chances when they have them. He changes the trajectory of how this team looks from a rebounding perspective, and his ability to rebound puts him in the best position to be able to run this team's offense the way that they need to. Pat Tolliver, appreciate you joining us here in the chat room right here on Inside the Mavs Live as we get you ready for the Mavericks and the Suns game 1, or game 1 preview can Luka Doncic and company. When again, make sure you're hitting that like button when you have the opportunity to. You can subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube and also become a member for just a couple bucks a month right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Appreciate that. If you got a super chat, you want a question, I'm answering your questions, taking your questions as we get you ready for the game tonight against the Suns. From my man Walt, Best for Business DFW, do you think we will use J Money Green a lot in this series? For defense, it's going to be interesting to see how Josh Green is used in this series. He's going to get a lot of opportunity, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, to knock down open three-pointers in this series, and he will have the chance to be able to make an impact on this series. Defensively, he will have his chances against Devin Booker, against Chris Paul, Mikal Bridges. He'll have his chances. What he does from a shooting perspective, to me, will determine how long he stays on the floor. We know how much energy he brings. He's an underrated rebounder, good passer. He's got to be able to knock down shots, though, to extend his minutes in this series, because if he does not knock down shots, it's hard to see him getting a lot of minutes in this series. He's become a valuable member in this rotation, but his ability to knock down shots, to me, is going to what determines how long he stays on the floor. You may see some Trey Burke in this series. Phoenix can get up and down the floor, can put points on you in a hurry. And I think you could see a little bit more Trey Burke in this series as well, with his ability to provide instant offense off the bench as well. But this is going to come down to, again, we mentioned it, Spencer Dinwiddie coming off the bench, Maxi Kleber, Davis Bertans. Bertans has got to have one of those 15 to 18-point games at one point or another in this series to stretch the floor from the three-point line and bend the math when it comes to the Dallas Mavericks and their ability to be able to win games in this series. We know how good this team is. When they're knocking down shots, they are extremely tough to beat. We know that their defense has traveled with them for the most part this season, but this team looks completely different when they are knocking down shots from the outside. When they are doing that, this is a very, very difficult team to beat, no matter who you are, whether you're the Milwaukee Bucks, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Phoenix Suns. If this team makes shots throughout the course of the series, they're going to be a tough out when it comes to the Western Conference semifinals. Appreciate you hitting that like button right here on Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports, our Mavericks Suns game preview when it comes to game 1 tonight. Appreciate that, Pat. I was 69 in the chat. We got to get some more likes, and appreciate you wanting to hit that like button right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Let me know your predictions for game number one. How do you think this game is going to go in game one between the Mavericks and the Suns? What are you looking for? Who is an X factor that we need to look out for in your mind based on what we've talked about so far? Obviously, this team and the Suns present challenges with their big men in terms of DeAndre Ayton, JaVale McGee. He's a guy that you got to look out for in this series as well when it comes to his ability to play at the center spot for the Phoenix Suns as well in terms of size and what they look for in their series as well. For Juanara Sporta, I hope we win, but we got the hardest matchup possible. Look, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, and I'll say it again. This Mavericks team is not afraid to play anyone. They know what they have in terms of their chemistry. Jalen Brunson, when I talked to him this past weekend, said, look, we've got to stick together, and that's been the mantra. If you listen to anything that Jalen Brunson or any of these players, Dwight Powell, Luka Doncic, any of these key members of this team, the common theme for them has been, we've got to stick together. That was tested in the series against the Utah Jazz. They were able to find a way, especially in game 6, to remain calm. They were down 15 multiple times or down 12 multiple times at halftime in the last series, was able to come back from double-digit deficits multiple times. They had 17 double-digit comebacks during the regular season, most in the NBA in terms of double-digit comeback wins. This is a team that is not afraid to be able to step up in the moment, even when they get down in series and down in games. This is a team that knows how to play composed basketball down the stretch. I like this from Super Crazy here in our chat room. If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here. I love it. I love it. Obviously, a callback to, of course, Luka Doncic. If you don't believe, then you shouldn't be here. Hey, that's what it is when it comes to the Dallas Mavericks. If you don't believe, hey, Mavericks fans are here to believe. From Ali El Shaddai. Let's see. So excited for this. I think a lot of fans, whether you're a Mavericks fan or just a basketball fan in general, you're really excited for this series. You've got the best team overall in the NBA versus one of the best players in the NBA, not just best young players, one of the best players overall in this league, and 23-year-old Luka Doncic, and he's fully healthy. How healthy is Devin Booker going to be for the rest of this playoffs is obviously the big question for the Phoenix Suns. For Martin Blake, Mavs in 5. Wow, I like the energy. Mavs in 5. I do think the series ultimately goes 6, if not the full 7 games. Phoenix is here for a reason. They're looking to put themselves back in the NBA Finals for a second year in a row. When you were as close as the Phoenix Suns were a year ago to winning a championship, they feel like this is their time. They feel like this is their opportunity to be able to get back to the finals and ultimately complete what they weren't able to do last year, which was win an NBA championship and be able to do it the way that they thought they were going to last season. That is what this team's mission is this year. They are on a singular mission to win a championship. Appreciate you hitting that like button right here on Kevin Gray Sports Inside the Mavs Live, our Mavericks Suns Game 1 preview. Can Luka Doncic and company get a win tonight? From BK Mavs 02, 2011 Lakers upset vibe. I'm glad you mentioned that. You saw all the national reporters and everyone picking against the Dallas Mavericks in this series, and I think smart money would tell you to pick against the Dallas Mavericks, given the talent that the Phoenix Suns have, the fact that they have that championship experience and pedigree, having made the NBA Finals last year, obviously not winning it, but getting to that point and going through the playoff wars to be able to be in an NBA Finals situation with a chance to win a championship. But here's the thing, and Shane said it for me right before I could even say it myself. The Suns have all the pressure on them, so I feel like that may help the Mavs. That's a perfect sentiment for this series. The Suns have the pressure to win an NBA championship. If you're the Mavericks, not only in game 1, but for the entirety of this series, you could play loose, you can play confident, you can play fast, you can do and play your game the way that you want to, because ultimately all the pressure is on the Phoenix Suns to win a championship. The Mavericks, if you want to look at it from the outside looking in, you could say they've already had a successful season by winning 50 games, by making it out of the first round of the NBA playoffs. At this point, you could say, quote unquote, that they're playing with house money. I don't think they're necessarily looking at it like that, but you can see how they would feel that way if in terms of trying to get beyond just the first round of the playoffs. TJKTV, how hype you feeling, Kevin? I'm excited. I'm more excited for Mavericks fans to have the opportunity to finally see this team after 11 years be able to get out of the first round of the playoffs. The energy for the MFFLs was high, obviously, in winning Game 6, an opportunity to see this team, who I believe earned it. They earned it throughout the course of the regular season. You saw how much better they got as the season went on. One of the best records, one of the 5 best records in the second half of the NBA this year. Defensively, how good they were, especially in the second half of the year. This team earned the right to be able to get out of the first round, and I'm glad that they were able to seal the deal and get it done over the Utah Jazz in 6 games the way that they did. From Master Fame, Sons Podcast was saying Dorian Finney-Smith Jr. They don't know this team at all. Yeah, I don't know who Dorian Finney-Smith Jr. is, but I know who Dorian Finney-Smith is. And my man has played really good basketball this season, has put himself where going into next year and beyond, this is a legitimate all-defensive player candidate and a guy that should be making all NBA defensive teams for the next few seasons based on how much he has continued to improve and how he's continued to get better on the defensive end. But again, going back to the Mavericks, they have earned the right to be here in this series. They have earned the right to be in the second round by virtue of the way that they played, especially during the second half of the year. And to have this opportunity against the defending Western Conference champion is going to be a terrific test. Jason Kidd told us this over the weekend. It's going to be a terrific test for this team to take on the best team in the NBA record-wise all season long. The experience of a Devin Booker, the experience, obviously, of a Chris Paul, and a team that felt that they were that close to winning a championship after being dispatched by the Milwaukee Bucks last year in the NBA Finals. Appreciate you hitting that like button right here on Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Subscribe if you want to. Also, you can throw in a super chat if you want to there. Get your question answered. Throw that in there, and we can answer it here as well. From Omaha, KC Kings. I like that. Your boys originally from Kansas City, Missouri. Didn't see the Kansas City Kings play before they obviously left and moved on, but appreciate Omaha KC Kings in here. Dorian Finney-Smith should already be all NBA defensive team. I like the sentiment. Dorian Finney-Smith, if he's not on an all NBA defensive team this year, certainly next year should be a serious candidate and favorite to make an all NBA defensive team. He is that good. And the responsibilities that he has night in and night out to guard the team's best player, we've seen that throughout the course of the season. And you saw the job that he did on Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell giving him tremendous credit throughout that series about how good Dorian Finney-Smith was defensively against him in the Jazz and Mavericks series. For Master Fame, Suns fans are about to learn who Dodo is. They are about to learn. They're going to learn today. Especially in Game 1 of this series. From Omaha Kings, Casey. Yep, 816. That's right. 402 Omaha. Yeah. Salute, man. Appreciate that. So look, I'm excited about this series. Obviously, what the Mavericks have done to put themselves in this position, they've earned the right to be here. Again, this is a team that has to knock down shots. When you start talking about keys to victory, not just in the game tonight, but throughout the course of this series, one, they've got to defend. Devin Booker, Chris Paul are going to make things tough on this team with the kinds of shot making and creation that they're able to do. Obviously, when you've got guys like Jay Crowder, who's a veteran, can knock down three-pointers, can also play well on the defensive end. This team is extremely deep when you look at what the Monty Williams-led team can put out there, whether it be Cam Johnson, really good off the bench for them as well. Phoenix is a deep team that can throw a lot at you, but it starts with a two-headed monster when it comes to Chris Paul and Devin Booker. For Brian Tunes right here inside our chat room, seems like the Mavs are better and Luca is the best on the court. Bet that pundits like Stephen A. Smith have to pay respect to Chris Paul and pick the Suns. Yeah, I think out of deference, most NBA insiders and most people that you look at are paying that deference to the Phoenix Suns, which honestly I think is the right thing to do. As we mentioned, they're the defending Western Conference champions for a reason. They are considered the best team in the NBA based on what they did throughout the entirety of the regular season. Yeah, should they have been pushed by the New Orleans Pelicans in that game as much as they were? Probably not. But they showed that they are still able to move on, even with the adversity that they dealt with when missing Devin Booker. And we know how spectacular Chris Paul was in the closing game with his 14-14 performance against the New Orleans Pelicans. From Chains here, there were some stats that just came out that the best defender on Booker was Dorian Finney-Smith. Yeah, and I believe it. Dorian Finney-Smith is going to be huge. We talk about our keys to victory here. Dorian Finney-Smith and his defense and how he performs against Devin Booker. Look, Reggie Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith played heavy minutes in the Utah Jazz series, playing over 40 minutes multiple times in that series. In fact, in Game 6, Luka Doncic played the entire second half. Dorian Finney-Smith, the entire second half. They are going to be leaned on. I'm talking about Reggie Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith going to be leaned on heavily in the series to play heavy minutes. We know how rotations get a little bit shorter in the NBA playoffs. Reggie Bullock's minutes, Dorian Finney-Smith's minutes, you're going to see them in the high 40s once again in this series because of the amount of responsibility that both of them shoulder when it comes to on the defensive end, guarding Chris Paul, guarding Devin Booker, doing what they have to do on Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges, and also offensively what they have to do from a three-point shooting standpoint. How their legs look at the ends of ball games, especially with their abilities to knock down shots, is going to be key. How much more worn down will they be by the time you get to end the ball games will be key to watch, especially in the last 5 minutes of these games. And that's another key to victory in this series. Who executes better down the stretch? We mentioned it earlier. When the Mavericks played the Suns in the three times they played them this year, the Mavericks were the ones that held a lead going into the fourth quarter in all three of those games. They were not able to finish it off. They have to be able to change that going into this series. From Patty O'Connor here in our chat room. Again, you can throw in a super chat if you want to. You can become a member for a couple bucks if you want to here on Kevin Gray Sports. This is Inside the Mavs Live right here on Mavs Suns Game 1 preview when it comes to Luka Doncic and company. Can they get a win again? From Patty O'Connor, question. Boban, I know he's slow of foot. However, would his size and length be helpful against Ayton on offense or defense, or if the Suns go to a zone? I don't think you'll see much of Boban again in this series. I know how much y'all love Boban. You have to only play him in spurts. There's not going to be a lot of opportunities for him. JaVale McGee, really athletic center. Obviously, with DeAndre Ayton, really athletic center. Even Bismack Biyombo, much more athletic than Boban Marjanovic. If they find themselves in a situation where they need a little bit of a spark, you may see some minutes from Marjanovic. I wouldn't expect to see much of him, though, in this series. From Brian Tunes, you always ask the best questions after the game. Respect. Appreciate that, man. I try to do my job and work as hard as I can for the MFFLs, try to ask the questions that you guys would be thinking about in terms of how these games look, how they're executed, what you would want to hear these players talk about. Those are the kinds of things I try to do for you, and I appreciate that, man. That means a lot. From Michael Flores, Kevin, do you think we will ever get to see Boban play some basketball? I mean, only if the Mavs are up by 30 at some point in the game with a couple of minutes left in the fourth quarter. Again, I love Boban. Boban's a fan favorite, terrific teammate. We know how much he and Luca love each other. I was watching them play some one-on-one in practice the other day together. We know how much Boban means to this team just from what he brings from a personality standpoint. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll see him much in this series, if at all, unless the Mavericks are up by 30 at some point in the series, blowing out the Suns in one of these games. From Change, yeah, not in the playoffs, Master Fame. The only time we see a blowout, yeah, exactly, in a blowout game at home. And y'all be letting let the Mavericks know. The Mavericks fans be letting the team know when they want to see Boban, especially when they're blowing out teams, chanting the "We want Boban" chants, which I personally love myself because it's fun to see the reaction of the crowd when Boban actually gets into these games because of how much of a fan favorite he actually is. That's something that we enjoy watching Boban do throughout the course of this time with the Mavericks. Appreciate you hitting that like button here. Make sure you hit that like button. Hit that like button if you're right here in our chat room, Inside the Mavs Live, our Mavericks Suns Game 1 preview. Can Luka Doncic and company win it again? Excuse me. So obviously we're going through our Game 1 keys to victory. Do you have any keys to victory tonight that we haven't mentioned that you want to see? We obviously talked about what this bench has to do. Spencer Dinwiddie, Davis Bertans, Josh Green, Maxi Kleber, all the guys that have to come off the bench, not only knocking down shots, but the energy. And defensively, what will we see from defensive coordinator Sean Sweeney and from Jason Kidd? Will you see zone at times? Here's the thing about the Suns. When they get going offensively, they can shoot you out of zones. This is a team at times that will have to look to stop the penetration of Chris Paul, maybe a 1-2, maybe a 1-2 zone, something that you'll have to see in this series to be able to change some things. Maybe a 2-3 zone, matchup zone in this series. there will be different wrinkles that the Mavericks will have to throw at the Phoenix Suns to keep them from having the kind of penetration with Chris Paul and Devin Booker that they're capable of having. From Chains, after the trade, that the Mavs have the most wins in the NBA. Close. The Phoenix Suns had the best record in the NBA after once the calendar turned from to January 1st this year. It was the Suns, the Celtics, and the Mavericks who had the top 3 or 4 records in the second half of the NBA this year. For Michael Flores, and not even then, Kid would not play Boba. Oh, yeah, we're talking about Boba on there. From Master Fame, I feel like Cleveland Dwight versus Ayton will be crucial. Yeah, the team rebounding for this team will have to be really good. We mentioned the athletic centers that the Phoenix Suns have. DeAndre Ayton, obviously JaVale McGee, Bismack Biyombo. They've got some athletic centers, obviously, that can rebound the basketball. And you saw throughout the course of the Jazz series their ability to get better. And again, Luka Doncic is key to that. His defensive rebound is going to be huge for this team in their ability to keep the Phoenix Suns to one and done possessions, because here's what you can't do with Phoenix. You cannot give them multiple opportunities on the offensive end for second chance points. This is a team that will make you pay in terms of giving them extra offensive possessions. They're too good offensively with guys like obviously Booker, Paul, Mikal Bridges' ability to shoot the basketball. Jay Crowder can shoot the ball from the three-point line. Cam Johnson, really good for them off the bench. You cannot give this team extra opportunities for second chance points in this series and have an opportunity to think that you're going to win big in this series. From Homeboys, Pauletto, I think the keys of the game offensively is to attack whoever Booker is guarding and force someone to help the paint and kick out for threes. I like that. Test Devin Booker early and often in this game and in this series in terms of attacking him to see how that hamstring holds up. That, to me, is going to be huge when you look at the drive game of Doncic, the drive game of Brunson, Dinwiddie. Attack Devin Booker and Chris Paul. Force them to have to guard you for multiple possessions in this series. Obviously, we mentioned a little bit earlier, the Mavericks averaging nearly 18 seconds per possession against the Utah Jazz. We know that the Mavericks were the slowest paced team in all of the NBA. Force Booker, force Paul to guard you a lot in this series by making it tough on them with the drives into the paint, the kickouts for guys like Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, and other shooters that should have wide open looks from the three-point line. From Window Pane, Frankie can help. I'll talk about Frank Ntilikina, who did not, really play, obviously, in the last series. Could he be a factor in this series? From Luca Byrne, Luca to turn into Super Luca, look for a 35-point triple-double. Now, here's what I'll say to that. I hope that he doesn't have to put that kind of Herculean effort in every single night. That's a tough ask. Obviously, we know that he's obviously capable of doing it. He's had 42, 11, and 9 games against the Phoenix Suns. We know he's had some monster games against this team, but there has to be balance for the Mavericks. You cannot ask Luka Doncic for a 6-7 game series to have to put up 35, 40-point triple-doubles in every single game of this series. That's unfair to him, and that's a little bit of a discredit to his teammates, especially in Jalen Brunson, who we saw at times carry the Mavericks in that series against the Utah Jazz. Obviously, the biggest performance coming in game 2 with the 41 that he had. Luka Doncic should be able to not just only have monster numbers, but other teammates should be able to come with him. That's why a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie, who we said was an X factor going into game number 6, and why he had to perform the way that he did. This is why you brought Spencer Dinwiddie over as another ball handler, shot creator, and shot maker to be able to take some of that offensive pressure off of Luka Doncic. The emergence of Jalen Brunson has been huge for this team and his ability to create for himself, for his teammates, but not only knocking down three-pointers, but finishing at the rim to take some of that offensive scoring load off of Luka Doncic. While it will be spectacular to see him put up those kinds of numbers, I'm hoping he doesn't have to do that for 5, 6, 7 games in this series to have to try and help them win games in that kind of Herculean effort. His teammates should be able to provide a little bit more balance when it comes to that. Make sure you're hitting that like button right here. Inside the Mavs Live right here, our Mavericks Suns Game 1 preview. We'll get to our game prediction here in just a few moments as we get you ready for the game tonight. Master Fame, Luka is going to go one-on-one against everyone and pick the easiest matchup. Yeah, Luka Doncic is going to hunt for matchups. Jalen Brunson going to do the same, hunting for matchups, trying to get the Phoenix Suns to get multiple switches onto him. Obviously, that's why the pick and roll game is going to be extremely effective. Can the Mavericks get the Suns into switching positions where you get DeAndre Ayton out onto Luka Doncic, getting a guy like Jay Crowder onto Luka Doncic, getting multiple guys onto him to where he can exploit matchups? Obviously, we mentioned a little bit earlier the physicality of a Luka Doncic, especially when Mikal Bridges is guarding him. Can he wear him down to take some of that offensive effectiveness away from Bridges with his ability to shoot the ball from the three-point line? From Chains, I like the three-guard lineup in this series. That's something that we haven't talked about just yet. We saw how effective the small ball lineup was for the Dallas Mavericks, where at times you either had Maxi Kleber at the 5, Davis Bertans at the 5, or in their most effective small ball lineup, Dorian Finney-Smith at the 5. I think you could see plenty of that in this series also. Again, the key to that small ball lineup, especially that 5-out offense they'd like to play, especially with Maxi Kleber at the 5, you've got to knock down three-pointers. You've got to knock down open shots because that spreads out everything for everyone else, creates driving lanes for Brunson, for Doncic, for Dinwiddie to be able to find shooters in the corners that are able to knock down shots or on the wings for Reggie Bullock, Finney-Smith, Bertans. Their ability to be able to stretch the floor, but more importantly, knock down open three-pointers when they're going to that 5-out offense, spreading things out, that small ball lineup, that's when those things get effective. But as James was talking about, I like the 3-guard lineup in this series. So we're talking about Brunson, Dinwiddie, and Doncic all on the floor together at the same time. And then your small lineups have a Dorian Finney-Smith at the 5, maybe Maxi Kleber at the 5, and maybe Davis Bertans at the 5. From Amandu here in our I don't go sleeping on Jalen Brunson anymore. He has the full attention of the NBA when it comes to the Mavericks and their matchup here. Again, let's see. Spencer has shown he can catch shoot threat. What does this feel about Bertans? Bertans good. I think he's good. I think he'll continue to be the kind of guy that you want to see. I think we're back. Okay, now we're back. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to have the video cut off the way that it did. I think we're back here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube, Inside the Mavs Live. Unfortunately, the video cut out for a quick second there. Let's see. I think we're back, though. Oh, no, Master Fan said, yeah, we're losing you. Oh, no. Let's see if we got it back. I think we got it back, and we're all good now. Let's see. It says that I'm live. It says that we're talking. It says that we're good. There we go. Oh, we're good. Okay, good. Master Fan says we're good now. Sorry about that. Internet cut out for a second. Not sure what happened there. From Manuel Gutierrez, Luca Magic, the best NBA player. Hey, he's going to be – he is already one of the 5 best players in the NBA already as it currently is. Master Fan says we're good. Want to make sure that we're still good in the chat room. Everybody still good? Okay, we're good. So let me know your predictions. What do you think is going to happen in tonight's game? What do you think we're going to see in game number 1 of the series between the Mavericks and the Suns tonight? Who plays more this series, Powell or Kleber? That's a good question. I mean, Dwight Powell's obviously going to be in the starting lineup. Maxi Kleber is going to see a lot of time off the bench. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Oh, Chain says we're good. Okay, good. We're good. Appreciate you hitting that like button there. Apologize for the technical difficulties there for a quick second. This is Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. My name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. If you're just joining us, make sure you become a member for a couple bucks a month. You can drop a super chat in there if you want to. We'll answer your question. I'll answer your questions here as we get you ready for game 1 tonight for the Jazz and the Suns. Master Fan, I think Kleber is going 38 minutes. Yeah, Maxi Kleber can see some heavy minutes. look, he's going to have to be really good on the defensive end. We know that he's broken out of his shooting slump and his shooting woes. He's back where he needs to be, shooting the ball for the three-point line for the most part. His ability to take charges, the versatility that he provides on the defensive end is going to be huge, obviously, for this team going into this series as well. So we'll see with Maxi Kleber and what he does, obviously, in this series. He's going to have to be huge. Needless to say, everyone for the Mavericks is going to have to play a huge part in winning this series. Manuel Gutierrez says, let's go Mavs, let's go Luca. Hey, Luka Doncic obviously is going to shoulder a heavy load in this series from a scoring standpoint, a rebounding standpoint, all the things that you have to ask Luka Doncic to do. He is going to have to carry that load in this series in all aspects, whether it be shot creation, his passing ability, scoring. Again, I mentioned it earlier, I don't want to have to see Luka Doncic have to go for 40, 10, and 10 every night. That's too much to ask of a guy where there's other guys on this team who are capable of having big nights. That's why you want the balance. That's the word I'm going to use for this series when it comes to the Dallas Mavericks. Balance. Can they find the balance between having Luka Doncic do all the things that he does, but Spencer Dinwiddie, Jalen Brunson, Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, Kleber, all of these guys have to put it together. Is that a trick question? I am on shoddy. I butchered all of that. I'm sorry. No, CP3 is not trash. CP3 is the best point guard of our generation, man. Like, CP3 is one of the 5 best point guards in the history of this league. He only needs a championship on his resume to complete that illustrious Hall of Fame career that he has already. He just needs a championship to complete it. Hopefully it's not this season. But yeah, Chris Paul is one of the 5 best point guards of all time. From Chains, I don't know. I hear the Lobs will be there this series. I feel like Powell will have a big role. Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit earlier. I think Dwight Powell will have a much bigger role in this series in his ability to be able to hit and connect on those lobs from Luka Doncic. Dwight Powell will have a much better series. He was rendered pretty much ineffective in the last series, obviously, when it came to what his ability was and how he was used against Rudy Gobert. I think he'll have a much better series this year. Make sure you hit that like button here, right here on Inside the Mavs live, right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Mavericks Suns Game 1 preview. Can Luka Doncic and company get a win and win again? Do you think? Oh, Eshawn laugh aloud. CP3 is overrated. No, CP3 ain't overrated. I love Chris Paul as a player. Master Fan, do you think Kidd will go with a wider rotation early in the series and tighten up as the series goes on? We'll see. Again, you know, in the most part, you saw in the Utah Jazz series, 8-man rotations that included Davis Bertans. Obviously, that included Maxi Kleber, Josh Green, while Luka Doncic was injured and out in the first 3 games. Obviously, that rotation expanded because you were able to put Dinwiddie back on the bench and have him come off the bench. So your rotation got a little bit better and got a little bit longer because Luka Doncic's his ability to be back on the floor. Yeah, Chris Paul makes everybody better. Chris Paul is absolutely phenomenal. That's the big thing when it comes to Chris Paul and his ability to do what he does for his team. That's how special Chris Paul is for the Phoenix Suns and what he's able to do. Again, appreciate you hitting that like button right here on Inside the Mavericks live right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Again, you can hit that super chat. If you got a question, I'll answer your question. You got a super sticker you want to throw in there, or you become a member for just a couple bucks a month. Make sure you're hitting that like button right here on Inside the Mavs live here on Kevin Gray Sports. Let's start to get to predictions. How do you think this game is going to go tonight against the Phoenix Suns? What are your series predictions for this series between the Dallas Mavericks and also the Phoenix Suns? Let me know how you feel about how this series is going to go, what you think is going to happen in this series. Who do you think is going to be the MVP of this series for either one of these teams? Let me know your thoughts in the chat right here on Inside the Mavs Live, our Mavericks Suns Game 1 preview right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Let's see. From Sakura Makura, can Luka switch on to Ayton and get buckets? For sure. That's one of my favorite things of watching about Luka Doncic. When he gets switched out onto a big, it's lights out for the big that's guarding, whether it's Gobert. We saw how much he kills Ivica Zubac. When bigs get on to Luka Doncic, he absolutely lights up. And you'll love to see that more and more, especially in this series, hopefully. From Travis says, hey, appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. Go Mavs. From Squiggy Man, Mavs in 5. Yeah, that's the second Mavs in 5 that I've seen in the chat room tonight. Y'all got a lot of confidence in this team to get a win in this series. Not only a win in this series, but to do it in dominant fashion. Talking about Mavs in 5. Okay. Dorian Finney-Smith is the best defender on Booker in the last 3 seasons. Will Bullock let CP3 get to his shots? That's going to be key. We were talking about that earlier. How good Reggie Bullock was against Mike Conley, virtually playing him off the floor. You're not going to do that, obviously, against Chris Paul, but how tough will you make things on him is going to be fun to watch in this series. From Squiggy Man, Dorian Finney-Smith, MVP, Master Fame. Mavs take game 1, 112-106, and the Mavs in 7. Okay, so we've had Mavs in 5 a couple times, Mavs in 7 from Gonzalo Alberto Costa. I think Magic, Curry, Isaiah Thomas, Oscar Robertson, Stockton are better all time than CP3, but he's definitely top 10. Fair enough. From Harold Victor, 102-96 Mavs tonight. Luca, the best player in the series by far. Mavs in 6. From L Maverick, L_Maverick. Mavs in 7 if we stay healthy. I'm expecting for each of us to get either a split, for us to split the games at home or defend our home games to push to the full 7 games. Okay, so I like that breakdown. Looking for each of these teams to get splits. Again, that's the goal for the Mavericks in the first 2 games. Find a way to get a split in Phoenix and then get things back to Dallas with an opportunity to take your chances at home. Gonzalo Alberto Costa says, and the Mavs in 7 with Luca Magic. That's going to be the most fun part of this series is that Luka Doncic, there's no worries about the calf injury. He's fully healthy. Jason Kidd telling us over the weekend, everyone's clean, everyone's good to go, and everyone's going to be ready to play in this series against the Phoenix Suns. From Michael Flores, we get game 1, and it could be a sweep. Whoa. Now look, we've had Mavs in 5 a couple times, Mavs in 6, Mavs in 7. Michael Flores going the boldest of the MFFLs. If we get game 1, it could be a sweep. Okay. From Plus W33D, ready for Dinwiddie, gets his stroke back. He started to pick that up in game 6. I thought game 6 was his best performance, his best overall performance, especially from shooting the basketball to doing all the things that he does. I think Spencer Dinwiddie got himself back on track in game 6 against the Utah Jazz. Can he carry that over into this series? Will obviously be the biggest question. Make sure you continue to hit that like button. Let your friends and family know that we're inside the Mavs live right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Again, my name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Become a member here for just a couple bucks a month. Throw a super chat in there. Answer your questions for you as we get you ready for game number 1 tonight. Alan Roundhead, do you think TH Day will play this series? So quick on that. Jason Kidd gave us an update over the weekend on Tim Hardaway Jr. He's still doing his shooting, still getting shots up. You're not going to see Tim Hardaway Jr. in the NBA playoffs. He remains out and will continue to remain out throughout the NBA playoffs. Even if the Mavericks find a way to get to the NBA Finals, by the time you get to June 2nd when the NBA Finals start, you're not going to see Tim Hardaway Jr., unfortunately, for these playoffs. He's still working his way back. A lot of people have been seeing him doing a lot of shooting, doing things, getting shots up before games. He's working his way back, but he still won't be available by the time we get to the end of this postseason. I think Theo has a bit. Yes. Yeah, Theo Pence. Look, Theo Pence is a fan favorite, too. My man stays talking trash. One of the more fun things I saw this weekend, obviously covering Mavs practice and everything. That cat won't shut up. Theo Pinson runs his mouth all the time. It's a lot of fun to watch. He's a constant cheerleader, a constant pro, and he's constantly doing his thing. Appreciate that, Alan. Yeah, definitely smash that like button right here on the video right here on Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Let's see. I'm from the Bay, so I really hope Dallas can win so I can watch Dallas truck Golden State. Go Mavs. Look, the ball don't lie. Draymond Green got that ridiculous, I thought ridiculous flagrant 2. The Golden State Warriors found a way to win that game in game 1. Coming back, Klay Thompson was big down the stretch, obviously. doing what he did. From Homeboys, Pauluto, Mavs win first round 4-2, sweeping the reigning. They win, sweeping the reigning Western Conference champions in the second round. I think I've seen this movie before. Oh, a little history callback there from Homeboys, Pauluto. I like the callback. I like it. Obviously, reminding us of what happened in 2011. Everyone picking the Los Angeles Lakers. We know what happened there. Obviously, the Mavericks handled their business and did what they had to do. From Harold Victor, are you still on board the Rudy train to Dallas? I mean, there's no reason to get off of it. Again, I get the reservations around Gobert, but as I was telling my partner, Chris Arnold, over the weekend, there are too many pros versus cons when it comes to adding Rudy Gobert to this team. Better defender, better rebounder than Dwight Powell. I know the questions in terms of his hands and what he does offensively, but just imagine Luka Doncic being the one providing the easy passes to Rudy Gobert. Donovan Mitchell, not a pass guard, is a scoring guard. Mike Conley, not nearly as good of a passer as Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic, I think, would help Rudy Gobert get the easiest buckets he's ever gotten. Because, again, when you've got an all-NBA player, especially one of the best offensive players in the NBA, decisions by defenses have to be made on whether or not you're going to stay with Luka or you're going to let Rudy Gobert run free to the basket all night long. And if that's the case, you let Rudy Gobert run to the basket all night long, guess what? Luka Doncic is going to get his in the mid-range and find shooters all night long. So let's pick your poison at that point. And I think Rudy Gobert would realize in his situation here in Dallas that he has to assimilate into this locker room. It's Luka Doncic's team. He's going to be asked to be a terrific defender, shot blocker, rebounder, catch easy lobs, get easy buckets all night, and stay out of the way. And here's the other part about Rudy Gobert being with the Mavericks if the Mavericks decide they want to go down that road. What he'll have here in Dallas versus what he didn't have in Utah was dudes who could defend on the perimeter. One of the reasons why Rudy Gobert is so upset about what he has to do in Utah is because all them dudes can't guard anybody. Mitchell can't guard anybody. Conley can't guard anybody. Royce O'Neal can barely guard anybody. Nobody can guard anyone in Utah. So you find Rudy Gobert having to do much more work than he wants to do, having to guard guys out on the perimeter. Guess what he doesn't have to do here in Dallas? He doesn't have to guard anybody on the perimeter. Reggie Bullock's got that covered. Dorian Finney-Smith's got that covered. They're not going to allow guys to blow by them all that often. And even what they do, you've got Rudy Gobert as an eraser patrolling in the paint. That's why I think it's a perfect fit when it comes to Rudy Gobert and the Dallas Mavericks, in my humble opinion. How come the Suns fans don't acknowledge the fact that Jay Crowder was a Mavs? I have no idea. You got to ask them about that. I have no idea. The Heat off to a hot start. Oh boy, Doc Rivers. I don't get what Doc Rivers was doing. Your team's up by 29 points with 4 minutes left against Toronto. Why is Joel Embiid in the game? Like, you've cost yourself a potential chance to win this series by some dummy mistakes by leaving him in there. Instead of Gobert, I'd rather have James Wiseman if he's healthy. He's got so much potential. Hey, Wiseman, good player, got a lot of potential. Rudy Gobert's a proven commodity, 3-time defensive player of the year. I wouldn't mind that dude on the Mavericks, especially defensively. When you start looking at what the Dallas Mavericks do, an anchor like Rudy Gobert down the middle would be perfect for this team and what they want to do defensively against teams. And he's not going to get played off the floor in most cases because, again, the Mavericks got dudes that can defend, and Rudy Gobert won't have to do the kind of work that he has to do when it comes to playing in Utah. That thing in Utah is an absolute abject mess out there. He may want to be traded, demanded to be traded. I don't know what's going to go on there in Utah. Make sure you're hitting that smash and that like button right here on Inside the Mavs right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Going to be getting out of here in just a little bit. But again, want your predictions. We've got some predictions earlier. Here's what I do when it comes to this series. Look, I'm objective when I'm covering this team. Love covering this team. Here's the thing. You're going to get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. I'm taking the Suns in 7 games, but I would not be surprised if the Mavericks find a way in 6 or 7 games to get this done. I said it before, and I'll say it again. The Phoenix Suns have built, to me, what's a perfect modern basketball team. Floor general and Chris Paul. Devin Booker, devastating scorer, can score anywhere on the floor. Mikal Bridges, one of the best perimeter defenders, if not the best perimeter defender in the NBA. Respect to Marcus Smart and what he's got going on in Boston. Obviously, you got a 4 in terms of Jay Crowder. You got a really talented big man in DeAndre Ayton who can rebound the basketball, can shoot in the mid-range, can rebound and do the kinds of things that you want an athletic center to do. They've got a really nice bench when you start thinking about guys like Cam Johnson that come off the bench. Really deep basketball team. They do all the things that you want them to do. And a lot of people, including myself, think it's their time to do what they need to do to finish off what they couldn't finish off last year, which is winning an NBA championship. But that does not mean the Mavericks do not have a terrific opportunity to win this series. I give them more than a 50-50 shot to win this series. That's because of how good they are defensively. They've got the best player on the floor in this series in Luka Doncic. And more importantly, all the pressure is on the Phoenix Suns to win a championship. There is no pressure on this Mavericks team. They've gotten out of the first round. They do have a really good chance to win this series. From El Mavericks going 7 games, the last one will be 50-50, being at the Suns at home. But I'm hyped. Fire emoji. Kevin, do you have a player that you think will have a random great game tonight? Yeah, Davis Bertans. I said it a little bit earlier. Davis Bertans has to have one of those 15, 18-point games in this series. He could come out and shoot the lights out from the three-point line and give this Mavericks team a real lift. You're not going to get much from him defensively, obviously, but he's a guy that's extremely capable of coming up with a 15, 18-point night, hitting 5 to 6 3-pointers, and being a guy that stretches the floor for this team, especially when we talked about earlier, them going small when he's in there at the 5. Davis Bertans would be my candidate for that random player to possibly have a big night tonight. Hit that like button, smash that like button right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube, Inside the Mavs Live. About to get out of here in just a few moments. Want to get your final predictions on games in game 1 tonight, and obviously what they got going on going forward. Dinwiddie needs to have a great game, a great series for the Mavs to advance. I agree with you there. Dinwiddie's got to be big from Allen Roundhead, Maxey, and Josh Green. We talked about earlier, Josh Green, his ability to have opportunities to hit shots from the outside. That's going to be huge for them, obviously, in this series. If he can knock down shots, really change how the Suns look at defending him. Because, again, he's going to get plenty of looks. They're going to tip their cap to him if he's knocking down shots in this series, as they should. No reason to feel like you have to have extra pressure to guard a Josh Green. If he's knocking down shots, tip your cap, and you move on. From Sakura Makura, 104-101 Mavs. Harold Victor, what's the best game plan against the Phoenix Suns? That's a great question. To me, it's making things as difficult on Devin Booker and his Chris Paul as possible. You may see some zone in this series. We know how well Phoenix can shoot the basketball, but using zone in this series could find a way to cut off driving lanes. And we know how good the rotations and the scrambling of the Mavericks are in terms of their defense. That could be key in this series. But to me, you're going to see, I think, a lot of Dorian Finney-Smith on Devin Booker. The key to me when it comes to game planning against the Phoenix Suns, how difficult do you make things on Chris Paul by providing length against him to try and make him have to try to see over you? Reggie Bullock could find himself playing a lot of defense on Chris Paul. Obviously, with Dorian Finney-Smith and the length that he provides, he may not. Okay, so let me set you up here. Dorian Finney-Smith may not have a great shooting series, but if he's defending and making things tough on Devin Booker, that's where the real contribution from Dorian Finney-Smith is going to be in this series. That's why other guys like Dinwiddie, Bertans, Kleba, Green, those dudes will have to make shots and make those extra shots that Dorian Finney-Smith may not make or take in this series because he's expending the kind of energy on the defensive end that may make it tough for him to knock down the shots that he's accustomed to making. So if that's the case, don't overreact. Dorian Finney-Smith has a job to do. That is to make things as difficult on Devin Booker as possible. If he can do that, now we're talking about something entirely different with the way that he guards after him. But if I'm game planning against the Phoenix Suns, throwing different defensive coverages at Booker, against Chris Paul, finding a way to make things tough on them in terms of the length of Finney Smith and Bullock to make things happen there. Rondo to Dallas, what are you doing? Came all the way out of left field with a Rondo reference. Not here, not tonight. Inside the Mavs live right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Again, my name is Kevin Gray. Make sure you're smashing that like button while you're there. Smash that like button while you're here. Inside the Mavs live. We're getting you ready for Mavericks Suns game 1. Can Luka Doncic the company win it again? Final 12 minutes here before we get out of here on this Monday night. Again, if you got a super chat, you can throw a super chat in there. Super sticker. If you got a question you want to throw in there, you can become a member for a couple bucks a month if you want to as well. For all my live content right here. And, of course, all my content here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. You can subscribe, obviously, to my podcast as well, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts for free. Just search The Gray Area Podcast. Make sure you write a review, give a 5-star rating for the podcast while you're there. Been watching for a good year, man. Wish you uploaded more. Same. I appreciate that. I'm going to do a lot more of that in the coming days and weeks. So I really appreciate that. Harold Victor laughing at the whole the Rondo deal to Dallas. So again, looking forward to this series, looking forward to tonight's game, looking forward to what this series will bring for both the Mavericks and the Suns, especially obviously from the Dallas Mavericks. Harold Victor saying Luka get 50. Hey, if Luka gets 50 tonight, I mean, party all over the place, right? If Luka's getting 50 points in any of these games. But again, what you don't want to see happen is Luka feel like he has to do everything for this team, to have to feel like he has to put forward Herculean efforts night after night after night. While he's capable of doing that, and while you wouldn't mind seeing him doing that, that is unfair to him and the rest of his teammates who have the ability to help him shoulder and carry the load. If they can, there should be much more balance. I mentioned the word earlier, and I'm going to mention it again, balance. Their ability to provide balance offensively for Luka Doncic is going to be key in the series to be able to do so. And if they can, this team is going to be able to be in a position to win games. Going through a couple of numbers as we get ready for this game. Obviously, Luka Doncic is returning for the final 3 contests of the series against the Utah Jazz, finishing Game 6 with a franchise-leading 12th career 25-5 postseason outing. Of course, in that Game 6 win, 98-96 over the Utah Jazz. Obviously, for Devin Booker, he sat out games 3 through 5 before returning in Game 6 with 13 points. Obviously, Chris Paul going 14-14 in the Game 6 clincher. How Devin Booker appears to be health-wise in the series will be huge in this series. You think Brunson will be the Mavs' primary target this offseason? Yeah. The Mavericks are motivated to bring Jalen Brunson. That's a fact. They're motivated to bring him back. He's been too good. He's too important. His development has been too good for this team. And what he has proven now to be a reliable second scorer, ball handler, and a guy that can obviously put the team on his back when they need him to. Yeah, the Mavericks are motivated to bring him back. I would be shockingly disappointed if he's not in a Mavericks uniform at the beginning of this next season. Dallas should be able to get Jalen Brunson back. They're motivated to bring him back, and they should be able to do so going forward into next season. Chains, I feel better. I have a better feel for this series after this game tonight. Can't give a prediction just yet. Fair enough. Make sure you're hitting that like button here on Kevin Gray Sports Inside the Mavs live right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Yeah, look, these two teams are going to fill each other out, obviously, in the first game. But these two teams obviously know each other very well also. Again, the Mavericks have not beaten the Suns in 9 straight games. They've beaten streaks all season long. Ask Memphis how they did that. You can ask the Chicago Bulls how they did that. This team is not afraid to break streaks when it comes to the opponents that they face from Harold Victor. Do you think JB can have the same kind of impact in this series? I think he can, but he doesn't have to. Here's why I say that. There was, conversation once Luka Doncic got back. Well, is that going to stifle Jalen Brunson, what he's able to do in terms of his offensive game? Here's what happens when Jalen Brunson gets a guy like Luka Doncic back. He gets the pressure taken off of him in terms of being the primary scorer and creator for this team. With Luka Doncic back, all of those opportunities for Brunson now become that much more wide open because of all the attention that Luka Doncic, commands. Jalen Brunson should be just fine going forward in the series. Will he have the monster 30, 40-point games that he did against the Utah Jazz? I don't think so. But honestly, I don't need him to. If you can get efficient nights from Brunson, 9 of 14, 8 of 13, going to the line 5-6 times, 4 or 5 assists, 0 turnovers, being able to have the kind of effect finishing at the rim, knocking down 3 to 4 threes in a game, that's what you want from Jalen Brunson. That's been his hallmark, especially this season, the efficiency at which he scores the basketball, whether it be finishing at the paint or in this case this year, a much more improved three-point shooter. The kind of stat line that you want to see from a Jalen Brunson throughout this series, if you're looking for a stat line, 7 of 11, 8 of 13, 9 of 14, 22, 23 points, 5, 6 assists, 0 turnovers, getting to the line about 7, 8 times because he's getting to the rim, trying to create foul trouble for other guys. That's the kind of line that you want to see from Jalen Brunson in this series with his ability to finish at the rim. Yes, and he needs to, if the Mavs want to win this series. Okay, I'm going to help my daughter with the movie room just a minute. So, look, do you think Dinwiddie will stick with the Mavs long term? I think he will, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Unless they find a piece. Sorry about the interruption there. Unless they find a piece or something that it can flip him to make him part of a bigger deal going forward. We'll see about that from High Pipe. Oh, look. Oh, we got a Suns fan in the building. Not so many Suns fans in the chat, which is okay. This is a Mavericks all thing here. No, but we welcome all NBA fans right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Inside the Mavs Live. Last 5 minutes here. All right, prediction time from me. Game 1 on the road, Mavericks, Suns. What will this game look like? I think it's going to be a close game going into the fourth quarter. The last 5 minutes are going to decide this game. I'm going to pick the Mavericks to steal game 1 on the road. Phoenix is coming off a tough series against the New Orleans Pelicans. The Mavericks coming off a tough series against the Utah Jazz. The Mavericks should be the looser team, the team that plays with a lot of confidence. They're, quote-unquote, playing with house money in this series. The pressure is on Phoenix. Again, that my prediction goes against everything that we've talked about when it comes to the Phoenix Suns this season. They have been the best team in the clutch in the NBA all season long. I think the Mavericks will have just enough to steal game 1 on the road and get the split that they need. I think they need to get game 1 to establish early on that this team is not to be played with, and you have to take them seriously. The Mavericks are going to be loose. That's going to be that's going to be the one thing I'm watching the most. How loose, how fun this team plays, and the kind of energy that you see in the first 5 minutes, because they should come out guns blazing in this game. Take your open threes, knock them down, take them with confidence in this game, and let's see how the Suns respond. They should respond well. They're at home. They're the defending Western Conference champions. They're looking to get back to the NBA Finals. But if you're the Mavericks, you play carefree. You play with a freeness and a joy that allows you to just come out and have some fun. That's the thing. Have fun if you're the Mavericks in game 1. I tweeted out earlier at Kevin Gray Sports, this team gets to have fun, play loose, play fast, come out and punch them in the mouth and see how they respond at home. And you never know what could happen in a game like this. Let's see. I feel like Luca and Booker and Brunson and CP will cancel each other out. It's going to be about the third scorer and bench on each team. That's a great point, which means, Spencer Dinwiddie, that you'll have a terrific opportunity to make an impact on the series. Cam Johnson and others for the Phoenix Suns, Jay Crowder and others will have opportunities to make impacts on this series. That is why Spencer Dinwiddie has to have a massive series when it comes to the Dallas Mavericks. Again, make sure you're smashing that like button right here on Kevin Gray Sports, Inside the Mavs Live, our Mavericks Suns game 1 preview, last 3 minutes of our show. I'm taking the Dallas Mavericks in a close one, 103-100. The Mavericks defense has been stellar. They held the Utah Jazz under 100 points multiple times in the series against Utah. Utah was the best team in terms of offensive efficiency all season long, and the Mavericks did the job defensively on them. I think they can do it again tonight when it comes to the Phoenix Suns. Now, this is not to say I would not be shocked if the Phoenix Suns come out here with guns blazing themselves and find a way to try to put things away early against the Mavericks. The Mavericks have proven, especially in the Jazz series and throughout the course of the regular season, this team is not afraid to come back from being down double digits. If they are able to, they will have a great opportunity to win this game. Do you agree with Stephen A. that the Mavs will win a ring before the Cowboys? I mean, at this rate, yeah. At this rate, the way that the Cowboys are performing, yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I agree. Football is a team sport to the max. In basketball, it's about the team. But in basketball, you can have one player just take over. Yeah, you can. You can have that individual take over in games to be able to put pressure on teams to have to defend them and then make decisions for everyone else to be able to have in this game. Make sure, again, you're hitting that like button here. Make sure you subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. And also, you can become a member for a couple bucks a month, and you can throw in a super chat in there. Last minute here before we get out of here again, you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. And you can also download and subscribe to my podcast, the Gray Area Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast. We're about to get out of here. Media availability is about to start here in a little bit. Mavericks, Suns, game 1, 9 o'clock in Phoenix. Can the Mavericks steal game 1 on the road and find a way to get a split going back to Dallas by the time we get to the weekend? It should be a fun one tonight out in Phoenix, Arizona. Again, my name is Kevin Gray, host of Inside the Mavs live right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Subscribe to the Gray Area Podcast wherever you get your podcast for free. And also you can subscribe here to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. And I appreciate the time, Mavs fans. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to you later. About to get out of here. Peace.